Recently, the United States has once again implemented a series of sanctions against China, including Chinese semiconductor companies on the Entity List, restricting the export of high-performance artificial intelligence chips, and restricting chip companies from investing and building factories in China. In response, China quickly took countermeasures. On October 20, 2023, the Ministry of Commerce of China announced the implementation of export control measures on high-end graphite products. So, why can restricting graphite exports constitute sanctions on the United States and the European Union? Today, we will discuss this topic. Welcome to World Hotspot, where you will be able to learn about projects, cooperation around the world, and important information about China. I hope you can subscribe to me. Let us discover more interesting things around the world together. On October 20th this year, China issued an announcement announcing export controls on graphite and related products, especially restrictions on high-purity, high-strength, high-density artificial graphite and other manufactured products. Many people don't quite understand why China wants to restrict the export of graphite. In fact, this is China's unequal counterattack against European and American countries. Not long ago, the European Union ignored the rules of the World Trade Organization and launched a countervailing investigation into China's pure electric passenger vehicles without sufficient evidence to support it. The EU believes that with the development of China's new energy vehicle industry, China's electric vehicles have achieved success in markets such as Europe and have surpassed Japan to become the world's largest automobile exporter. On the contrary, because European car companies are too dependent on traditional technologies and are unwilling to invest and develop new energy vehicles, they are surpassed by China in the field of technology and cannot even keep up with Chinese car companies. Therefore, under the lobbying of these car companies, the EU government announced an investigation into China, hoping to impose punitive tariffs on Chinese cars through administrative means and help European car companies gain an advantage in the local market in the form of trade protectionism. China has suffered unfair treatment and will naturally take countermeasures. This time, the control of graphite exports is a strong response to the EU's anti-subsidy investigation. As far as the United States is concerned, the Biden administration has been trying to continue to impose sanctions on China's semiconductor industry in recent years. Especially the day before yesterday, the U.S. Department of Commerce once again updated its sanctions against China. Chinese GPU entity companies have been included in the Entity List and are prohibited from selling the most high-end artificial intelligence chips to China. High-end chips such as NVIDIA's A800 and H800 are prohibited from being exported to China. This will have a huge impact on China's semiconductor industry and related applications, so China is very angry and dissatisfied. While expressing its protest, the Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs announced that it would take necessary measures to safeguard its own interests. So, what are these necessary means? In fact, it is sanctions, and they are unequal sanctions. Although graphite is not classified as a rare earth or scarce mineral such as rare metals gallium and germanium, China is the world's largest exporter of high-quality graphite. These high-quality graphite products can not only be used as important components in missile manufacturing and rocket engines, but are also important materials in the aerospace field. In addition, with the further development of the new energy industry, graphite has also become a key part of electric vehicle batteries. Therefore, China ranks first in the world in terms of graphite production capacity, accounting for 90% of global production. As for which countries China's graphite is mainly sold to, we can check the customs data. The largest buyers of Chinese graphite include Japan, India, the United States, and South Korea. These four countries are all Western developed countries, and their relations with China are not good. For example, Japan's discharge of Fukushima nuclear wastewater and its purchase of U.S. military ballistic missiles threaten China's homeland security. Another example is that the United States has just imposed sanctions on China's semiconductor industry. Everyone is very aware of the conflicts between China and the United States, such as diplomacy, geopolitical friction, and economic and trade wars. Another example is India, which has been asking China to return its territory and has violated Chinese territory many times. The Sino-Indian border conflicts in the past few years have triggered serious tensions. South Korea is in a relatively difficult situation and can only survive in the cracks of Sino-US relations. South Korea has always been a pawn used by the United States to balance North Korea and China. In addition, because European and American companies still import large amounts of graphite from China, China's graphite exports are as high as 420,000 tons per year and continue to grow. Therefore, if China restricts graphite exports, it will greatly affect the investment of Western countries in the new energy industry chain, which is equivalent to blocking the mouthpiece of Western countries. After all, as basic raw materials with high technological content, if Japan and the United States want to produce them themselves, they must establish an entire industrial chain, invest in technology research and development, and carry out large-scale manufacturing. Some people also ask, what if sanctions are imposed on Europe, the United States, Japan, and South Korea, and China's graphite cannot be sold? It's actually very simple. China's graphite can be digested domestically. At present, China's demand for new energy vehicles is increasing, and its demand for graphite raw materials is also huge. In the past, China had oversupply and therefore needed to export, but now China's own demand has exceeded supply, so domestic digestion is not a problem. Even if European and American countries can produce graphite products of the same quality, the production capacity is far less than that of China and the scale effect is insufficient, which leads to high prices and makes European and American new energy products lose their competitiveness. Therefore, when China was unable to impose reciprocal sanctions on European and American countries in the semiconductor field, China chose to adopt unequal sanctions in areas where it was good at it. This actually tells European and American countries that if they want to sanction China, they will inevitably encounter reciprocal countermeasures from China. Before imposing sanctions on China next time, they need to consider whether the price they pay is acceptable. Of course, from the perspective of public opinion, China pursues peace and is willing to directly confront foreign countries in the civilian and commercial fields. Therefore, China's foreign language does not involve competition between China and the United States. However, to some extent, China as a sovereign country does have the right to decide whether to export to a certain country through export controls. After all, China's graphite has technological content and can be used to make rockets, drones, and rocket engines. If high-end graphite is exported at will and allowed to be obtained by lawless elements and other countries, it will endanger China's national security and interests. Therefore, China's implementation of export controls is reasonable, legal, and legitimate.